special guest tonight, Jordan Szoke, currently leading the 2020 CSBK Superbike Championships after going 4 for 4 at Calabogie and at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park just a week ago. And also great to have Michael Leon, who has been qualifying really fast. Has been on the podium once, probably should be on the podium 4 times. We'll recap his season so far, but also talk a little bit about Michael Leon and his racing career. We know about riders like Jordan Szoke, 13-time Superbike champion, but want to find out a little bit more about Michael Leon, the motorcycle racer. So, Stuart, another busy weekend of motorcycle road racing as we go to our Nodell Notes. I think you got to unmute yourself there, and you're going to share your screen, and we're going to talk about some of the place this past weekend, but also look ahead to what's coming up the weekend of August 29 and 30.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Hopefully everyone that's joining us tonight, if you have any questions for any of the guys on the panel, please go into the Q&A and fire them away, and then we can address them later on. Just some of the things from the weekend, Pat, and MotoGP. Obviously, there was another first-time winner with Miguel Oliveira winning on the Tech 3 KTM, and that race was at Austria at the Red Bull Ring. It was an exciting race. It was a last lap pass in the last corner. He overtook the 2 riders ahead of him, the other Paul Espargaro on the factory KTM, as well as Jack Miller on the satellite Ducati.
Yeah, MotoGP has been very unpredictable this year with so many surprise winners and podium finishes, and I think that championship is going to go right down to the final round before anything gets decided. And of course, Marc Marquez on the mend. Not sure when he's going to be rejoining MotoGP, but that was a nasty crash he had about a month ago, so I think it'll be a while yet.
Yeah, I think they just reported the other day he's expected to be out a few months. Might even be probably the balance of the season is what it sounds like. And obviously now the championship, Quartararo still leading it, but the points are pretty close. Dovizioso's in second and Jack Miller's in third. So yeah, it's a wide open championship for sure. The next round is at the Misano circuit in September 13th.
Okay, so they've got a little bit of a break. Here in Ontario, back-to-back weekends. This past weekend, the second round of the Super Series at Shannonville Motorsport Park, and coming up this weekend, the SOAR Series. It'll be round 4 for them. They've had an extremely successful year at SOAR, but Stuart, what about Shannonville this past weekend?
Yeah, Shannonville had a race. I know there was in the pro class, there was a bit of a controversy where we had another race decided by, well, it was in the event of a red flag, and the 2 riders that went down causing the red flag were the winners of that event. So that was unfortunate for those folks. It sounds like they're reviewing, or at least considering reviewing the rule book, and maybe they'll get something sorted out. But I think overall, they had a pretty decent weekend.
Yeah. Reports that I got that the entry wasn't what they would have hoped for. I know Michael Leon went there for round number 1, and Michael was not there this weekend. I took a look at the entries. So definitely among the pro classes, the entry is not what organizers were hoping for. Hopefully whatever the issue is there, and I think prize money is part of it, that can be looked into, because all of us have spent some great weekends at Shannonville. Of course, as you know, I really grew up at Shannonville Motorsport Park going back to 1976 as Nelson International Raceway, and for many, many years was there probably 3 weekends out of 4 announcing not only the motorcycle races, but the CASC Car Club events. So hopefully for their final race, which comes up on the September 19th and 20th weekend, they can see a much stronger entry. Speaking of stronger entries, Stuart, I know you've been in conversation with Ken McAdam, who really jumped on things. It was the first road racing series on Ontario to get rolling again. They've got their 4th round coming up next weekend, and you spoke to him earlier today, and they might be looking at an absolute record entry coming up this weekend as they race on the 29th and 30th.
Yeah, Pat, that's true. I had a great conversation with Ken this afternoon, and what he'd indicated is they're getting on average, 20 to 35 riders per class every weekend. So they're setting records in terms of their entries, and so they are racing this weekend. Then they have an event coming up later in the year. It's actually a pretty cool concept. They call it the Rider's Choice, and any rider participating can vote in on what configuration they want to run at Grand Bend. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's a lot of camaraderie there. And it seems like there's a social component to the race weekend. So maybe John McBride and the folks at Rider's Choice can jump on board with that and make it more of a fun event.
Oh, indeed. So big weekend coming up for SOAR. It'll be round number 4. Shannonville's next race will be September 19th and 20th. And Stuart, I know Pat Barnes has been great in getting us the latest information on Jeff Williams. As you know, had a nasty crash on the Thursday during the Rider's Choice track day, crashed in turn number 4. Very, very serious injuries, but Jeff is certainly jamming the healing and the recovery. I believe just today he was transferred from St. Mike's from the intensive care unit, where he had been upgraded, I think late last week, from the intensive care unit trauma. I didn't know they had 2 ICUs, and today being transported to a hospital near his home in Kingston. What can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, just basically to confirm what you said, it sounds like he has transferred to the hospital in Kingston. Obviously at St. Mike's Hospital where he was in great medical hands. We know what a great trauma hospital that is for a lot of people. So it looks like he's past the pneumonia stages of what he was experiencing. So hopefully it's just a matter of time now that he will have a full recovery, but it'll probably take a long time.
Indeed. I know Jim Brown usually is one of the attendees. If we have time at the end, maybe we can get Jim on just to get his perspective and an update on Jeff, because I know he's been in constant contact with the family. So our guests tonight, Jordan Szoke and Michael Leon. Welcome, gentlemen. And Jordan, first of all, we hope to have had you on last Monday night, but I'm glad we hooked up tonight. Recap for us your weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park on the 15th and 16th, because I know you were there on Friday for the Rider's Choice track day. I actually took out a 600 for the first time in a long time. How much to plan did that weekend go for you?
Oh yeah, obviously in the end, it went perfect to plan. With us winning both races. Unfortunately for everybody involved, this Sunday we had a lot up and down with the weather, and normally the series, when it's operating with its normal schedule, they can hold off a little bit to try and get into those weather windows, and they obviously couldn't do much of that for the day we were out there, so it caused some issues, and it's tough at that track because it can be sunny in one section and raining in the other, and I don't know how many stories I can tell you over my career of that happening there. Even when I was a kid and my dad was racing there, it was happening. It's always happening there, and so it makes it for difficult times. I didn't get a lot of track time on Friday. It's just McBride's let too many bikes out on the track. It was just too dangerous. So I jumped on the 600 a bit more there to give both Scott Miller at Fast Company, who's been building the engines with his partner at the shop, and Andrew, and help the McKays out there with some setup advice, and it was fun to jump back on one and do a few laps. It's been a long time, but I said it would have been better to go to a track where a 600's not just pinned everywhere. I'll stick to the super bike. I enjoy the speed of them a little more.
Jordan, what is your understanding as to where the Superbike Championships right now? The ring of Jordan Szoke, 14-time Canadian champion. I'm sure sounds good to you, but that is not official. Where is the whole thing in terms of the championship, as far as you understand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows, I guess. Colin has not been the best at keeping all of us customers, because we're not really riders anymore. We're customers, as I see it, and informed with information. And luckily, I see Sandy on there. He's been fantastic this year. Him and Sheena have been on the ball with answering our questions. And I'm waiting, to hear, just like everybody else. I don't have any answers there, and I had to confirm with Kawasaki if they were going to be able to release some more of our winnings and all that, if there was another round, so that I could even afford to go. And they of course approved, and we're excited if we could have another round. So that helps me out there, to be able to go. I shouldn't even really be going to any of them with the financial situation I'm in, but I want to honor my commitments, and I love racing. So I'm game if they want to do it. I feel that the series is probably waiting to counter against Shannonville, to wait to see what they're trying to really push for their thing. I feel that's kind of where they're going, and I feel that maybe they need to, because I know Shannonville hasn't been that cooperative with the sponsors and riders and our safety equipment, lending it to us for our rounds. And we really need to all work together, and hopefully in the future that can be ironed out a little better.
Okay, Michael Leon, I want to bring you in because, you were very fast at Calabogie, a track that I know you've been an instructor at for some of the Pro 6 schools. Take us through your season so far. You've been very fast in qualifying, second behind Jordan by just a fraction of a second, and at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, it was like 5/100ths of a second away from grabbing the pole position. You've got to be happy with how you've qualified. In the races, you've been right there, but maybe not the results that you deserved.
Yeah, I mean, considering the poor results, I'm still thrilled. Like I had two good weekends. A bogey. Fortunately, I know the track pretty well. I've spent a lot of time coaching there and a lot of time riding with Pro 6. And I think the condensed format actually helped us a little bit because, the other competitors didn't have the 3 days in a row that we would usually have. And it was a good weekend. It's unfortunate that that the bike failed in the second event. But BMW was able to get that fixed for us pretty quickly. They changed out the throttle assembly and the airbox assembly for us, just as a precaution to make sure that they had it sorted. And then we went to Mosport, and Mosport was great too. I wish I had got that pole position. It was so close. I know that Jordan only did a couple of laps. I think he did 4 or 5 laps, and I think he had a little bit in reserve. But it would have been nice to steal it away from him in the closing minutes of qualifying. But what's important, is to start on the front row, and that's where we were. So we had two. Well, the first race was a bit stressful, and I just wanted to survive it. It was damp, and I don't do usually very well under changing conditions. And we didn't really have any spares for the bike, so I went out there with just the goal to survive it. And I think I could have done a little better if I had been more aggressive at the beginning. I rode the first 2 laps, 3 laps, very conservative, and dropped all the way back, I think as far as 9th. And I was able to work my way forward and fortunate enough to set the fastest lap. And race number 2, though, was one of the better rides of my career. I got the whole shot and put my head down and led the first 2 laps. And at that point, just the goal was just to stick with the lead trio. I mean, we all know at Mosport it's very difficult to break away. It usually comes down to the last couple of laps. Usually throughout the race, you know, the lead group gets smaller and smaller as people drop away. And for us that day, it went down to the last couple laps. We were the 3 of us. And, you know, it was sprinkling around the track, but not much. And I knew I thought that they might call it for rain. So it was important to make a move to try to move up the running order. And I made the move on Kenny into corner 3. And then when we came through corner 4, you know, we could see the rain had increased in 4. And we all rolled off. As Jordan rolled off, I was right behind him. So I kind of tried to pull alongside of him. And the rear end just came around in the wet. Luckily, I saved it the first time it broke away. If it hadn't have come back, I probably would have ended up like my good friend Jeff, because I was kind of in that trajectory, but got it back under control and sort of ran wide on the outside of 4 and lost it trying to stay on the track. So, you know, in my long career, I've wrecked a lot of bikes and crashed out of a lot of good positions. I've sometimes been my worst enemy, and I take full credit for all of those. This one, you know, maybe with the rain, I'll take maybe 50% of that blame, but, you know, the other 2 guys, Kenny and Jordan, made it through. So obviously, I'm not going to blame anybody else but myself, but it's unfortunate it didn't work out. But, you know.
I really feel that race direction made a wrong decision after the race. I feel that they should have given Michael his position on the track or back to the starting line of that lap, because it should have been red flagged when we go into a corner and it's pouring rain. To me, that was the cause of the red flag. I would imagine they deemed Michael the cause of the red flag, but I really felt that they shouldn't have under those circumstances. I felt that they should have honored the running order, but that's not my decision. But I thought, anyways, Michael, I thought that you should have got on the podium there.
Thank you for saying that, Jordan. That means a lot.
Yeah. Well, Michael, just to close the story there on Shannonville Motorsport Park, and this is in no way to bash the people who are running the Super Series there. I'm sure they're doing their very best, but you went to the opening round there and you didn't go this past weekend, because I know there have been lots of changes there in terms of the people running the series, and a bunch of changes in terms of you know, the rule book and races being run based on time, not number of laps. So some riders are going to like it, others are not. As a competitor and a pro rider who has supported the old race Super Series for many years, in fact, you won 2 race Superbike championships. What is your take as a rider?
Well, I did not attend the first round. I was intending to when we went into this, you know, the season pre-COVID. I was planning to do the whole series, but leading up to it, I found out that they weren't paying any prize money at all, and just made the decision not to go and support what they were doing. And the prize money at the regionals isn't really the money issue, because, I mean, I think in the very lean years at Shannonville, you know, like around 2010, 11, there were weekends where we got like a $200 purse for being on the podium in Superbike. So it was, the money itself isn't the deal breaker. It was just the symbolic part of it for me. You know, 40 years of history of racing at Shannonville and the pro class, there's always been a small prize money, something. You know, and the prize money is what separates professional racing from amateur racing. So I made the decision not to go. And,
Okay.
and it breaks my heart, because I love Shannonville. Like it's a piece of my my history. I enjoy going there, riding there, and the series has been in a difficult way for many years. But I was looking forward to the series, the new owners taking over and improving things, and had very high hopes. And it doesn't seem like that's working out. You know, they seem to be so far focused on fixing things that aren't broken. Like, I don't think the rule book really needed to be scrapped and rewritten, but you know, it's their series, they can do what they want. And you know, the format with using time instead of number of laps, just logistically, you know, I would hate for my crew to have to do math to calculate how many laps I have left. And you know, it's just, you know, the format of using laps works all around the world for road racing. I don't understand why they decided to change that, but that's their call. And I mean, aside from that, there just seems to be always a lot of drama and controversy coming out of the place after the race weekend. Hopefully they can listen to their customers and kind of change their ways and improve things and grow the customer base they have, instead of, you know, making it smaller. It's just too bad.
Yeah. Well, interesting, Jordan's comments about the red flag at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But I think one of the controversies, as you mentioned, coming out of round one, where Elliot Vieira had about a 17-second lead crash and was still given the win. And similar situation this past weekend, the two riders were battling for the lead, crashed, brought out the red flag. They went back a lap and made those two riders first and second. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I've been around this game a long, long time. But we'll see what happens. As Jordan, you look ahead to what may or may not be another round in the championship, I take it your preference is what? To have a round, or just to give you the number one plate that they didn't give you at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park a week ago?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, for me, if it's the, you know, because I'm getting some support from Kawasaki, I like to add a round. I mean, the more races, the better for our series. And, you know, if they really feel it's going to benefit the series, then I think we should do it. You know, right now we have, you know, Jeff's hurt. You know, who's going to be there? You know, we got to look at that as well. You know, and I don't even know if there is going to be a number one plate, because Colin said we're not getting the Canada Cup this year. So I don't even know. He hasn't even really been very clear on what we're getting, like, that way. So I don't even know if there is going to be a number one plate to be handed out. So really, there hasn't been much information given to us out there. And but I'm in support of another round if we all think it's for the greater good. And like I said, with Kawasaki on board to support me in that next round, and all my other sponsors who've put so much time and effort into this year, I think it's a good idea. And, you know, I've always said that we should have a round in September, because it's, you know, our series is so compact, and September is a beautiful month in Ontario, or some places in Canada, but for Ontario, for example, the weather's great. So I always said we should have a round in September. So I'm all for it.
Okay, I'm going to go to Stuart Nodell. And Stuart, you need to flip your mic on. I think we've got maybe a question or two or a comment, and then I assume that Sandy Noce is standing by, ready to give us whatever information he can.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Yeah, we do have Sandy online with us, so that's great. Thanks to him for joining in. Some of the comments we've gotten are just from Jan and Jim Brown, and they're just updating. They've spoken to Jeff today. He's going directly home, and he's going to convalesce there, which is great news. And, you know, it's always better to be at home than in a medical facility. And it sounds like he's in good spirits, and he's looking forward to a full recovery. So that's great news.
Well, I thought he was going to go to some kind of a rehab hospital in Kingston, but Jeff obviously has made a tremendous recovery so far. Of course, it's still a long and winding road to get back to full health, but we wish him all the best. And to the Williams family, I'm sure they're breathing a sigh of relief, and I'm sure Michael and Jordan on the call, you never like to see a fellow competitor sustain that kind of an injury. And I know your well wishes go to Jeff as well.
Yeah, I've been racing with Jeff since the early 90s. And, I think he's riding better now than he ever has.
He's matured.
Michael, you had a chance to race him at Calabogie. He had two great rides there, a fourth and a second.
Jeff's been on it. He was charging. He was riding great. And I've raced with Jeff a lot over the years. We raced. We had some good duke him out races at Shannonville. In the recent couple of years, and our families actually became pretty close. We would go over to his house for barbecue in the evening, and then go back and race Sunday and throw down. And I'm just thrilled that he's been released from the hospital. And I got a text from him Saturday evening. He got his phone back because he was transferred out of the trauma ICU, and he texted me that he was going to be coming home. And I didn't believe him. I thought it was just the drugs. I thought he didn't realize it, but I thought he was going to be transferred to a hospital. Yeah. Sure enough, he's out. So good on him. He's a tough guy. He's one of the tougher guys that I know, and I'm sure he'll bounce back fast.
Well, that's certainly great news, and we're glad we could share it with the folks who are with us on Track Announcer's Notebook. It looks like sunset has come to wherever Sandy Noce is. Sandy, thanks for coming on board here this evening. Jordan and Michael couldn't tell us a whole lot. What can you tell us about the current status of the CSBK Superbike Championship? And before we'll let you answer that, I think I can speak on behalf of all motorcycle road racing fans and riders that you did a great job stepping up here to make this series happen, albeit with a different kind of a format. What can you tell us about the current status and whether or not you've got other track days at other tracks where Colin Fraser could hopefully add a couple more Superbike races and a bunch of support classes?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you,
okay.
Sandy.
Pat, Stewart, thank you for having me. I'm coming to you from Calabogie. We have a 2-day event here at the moment. I'm sitting out on the viewing deck. Thought that would be a good opportunity to plug our track days. And I do want to give a shout out to Jeff and his family. That's great news. I'm pretty pumped about hearing that he's going home. I can't tell you much, unfortunately, about the situation with CSBK. It's Colin's deal. Sheena and I and Joe at Pro 6, we were the host for the event, so we provided Colin the track at Calabogie. He still ran his regular staff and crew, and then we stepped up again and provided him the track at Mosport, and rather Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We had some part in some of the other things. We used our website to help ease his registration, and I even towed some of the CSBK trailers back and forth to get the tech trailer there because he's short a truck this year because of Mopar. So he's been pretty fired up, and it's been decent, to see a 62-year-old man who's been in this industry for 40 years have a little spring in his step. And I believe he's doing his best. And I believe that if Colin Fraser wasn't, working the road racing in this country, that for what he gets paid and what the effort that gets put in, we may not even have road racing at that level. We've seen what other people could do with series. Soar and Race Super Series, they can go up and down. He's managed to maintain a pretty fair level of competition through other tire brands and sponsors. We got a little taste of it, being part of these last two events. It's a tremendous amount of work for very little monetary gains. So with COVID and everything that's going on, you know, we were just thankful to be at the races and watch our friends race and, you know, be part of making it happen. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but
Well, it sounds like it's really in Colin Fraser's lap right now as to whether or not financially there could be another round. What other track days do you have at Calabogie or any other tracks, I assume in Ontario, where you could potentially do what you've done at Calabogie and at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
see, that's the thing. It's super challenging now. These days have been booked a year ahead of time, and right now our last events of the year are sold out. So physically, the track space isn't there. Adding dates at this time of the year is super difficult. I mean, normally we plan our track events a year ahead of time. So doing what we did, and Sheena pulling out all the stops and pulling up all the favors, we had to refund a huge chunk of our track day riders their space because we basically had to cancel their groups to slot CSBK in. It was a tremendous undertaking, just the flack we took from riders saying, well, why can't I ride? I paid you at the bike show in January, and now you're telling me Jordan Szoke and Michael Leon will be taking my spots, essentially. You know, we put a lot out there to make it happen, and you know, we did it for our own benefit as well, for Dunlop tire sales, for keeping momentum alive in the series, for love of the sport, and for all those good reasons. We're not saying it wasn't worth the work, but adding a third round is incredibly difficult, and we just don't think it's in the cards. Colin's still pushing, trying to make it happen, but with our reduced superbike grid and the time of the year and COVID, it's challenging to put on a race in the best of times. And now, you know, it's extremely difficult, and we think it's probably better to try to prepare for next year now that we have a little feel.
Sandy, have you got somebody near you that's got a cell phone with a light? We're seeing less and less of you, and it's just the opposite. We want to see more and more of you. So if Buddy could put the flashlight on, there you go. We can see a little bit better. Not the best lighting, but we know you're there. How tough has it been? You mentioned having to refund some of your track day customers where you just couldn't fit them in because Michael and Jordan Szoke and company are on the racetrack. How tough has it been in terms of your Dunlop tire sales, where you were looking at, you know, at least double the rounds and double the events? How tough has that been on you this year?
It's been extremely tough. Imagine going to work twice the hours for a third the pay. That's sort of what it's been like. And then adding COVID protocol on top of all that. That's been super challenging. For the most part, our track day customers are lovely people, and we've become personal friends with them, and we ride with them and hang out in the paddock. And most of them are understanding. But when they get told that they can't ride because there's a national coming and taking their slots, some of them, you know, look forward to it, have planned vacations, or their families are coming or whatnot. And, you know, it was difficult to keep everyone happy. And unfortunately, we try to go for 100% rate, you know, satisfaction rate. And this year was super difficult.
Let's see if Jordan Szoke or Michael Leon have any questions for you, Sandy, as we listen in here on Track Announcers Notebook. Jordan, any questions or comments of Sandy?
Oh yeah, obviously, I always shake my head at Sandy and Sheena. They, you know, everything they're involved with, and how much effort it is. And you know, like Sandy said, like nobody wants to be in Colin Fraser's shoes. You know, anybody who takes that position down the road, uh, you're going to be the most in motorsports. Like nobody's ever happy at the racetrack, you know, with how things are going. So it is a tough job to do. And so I was, you know, surprised to hear that Sandy wanted to take on more with that. But you know, you know, like Michael, myself, you know, Jeff Williams, who put some money into it. We all have a lot of heart for the racing community, and we want to see that grow. So you know, we're all trying to work together to get through it. You know, it's tough times for everybody. So you know, I was happy to see Sandy do that. You know, I talked to Trevor Daly the other day, and you know, he's up in the air about having another round as well. And I said the only way I could do it is if, you know, I could get some more support, and now I am. So I'm leaving it up to the, you know, Colin and Sandy to do what they think's best for the series, and obviously I support them that way. I'm not too sure if there's. I know Grand Bend's an easier place to and cheaper place to run a race. So I'm not sure if that would be in the cards. Maybe I know places like CTMP and Calabogie are always so booked, and they're more expensive to run. There's a lot bigger safety issues at those tracks that you wouldn't have at a place like Grand Bend. So I'm not sure if that's in the cards, but I think if there might, you know, if there's a possibility and it is good for the series, then I'm behind it.
Michael, your
Yeah,
thoughts listening to Sandy here over the last 15 minutes?
yeah, I don't necessarily have any questions for Sandy and Sheena and Joe Pro Six. I just want to say a big thank you to them for helping put on the two events. I was very skeptical about Calabogie. Wasn't sure how a one-day event was going to go, and they pulled it off. It worked almost flawlessly. They had to bump the last race to the next morning, which ended up working out. And as well, Mosport was, even with the weather, they pulled it off. So big thanks to them and Colin for putting it on. You know, I think it was important to have some events this year, and like they said, carry the momentum along and keep racing through, even through a pandemic, because you know we don't know next season the conditions may be very similar. We may have to have more events without spectators, and I'm glad that they've kind of found a way to make that happen. So thank you guys.
Sandy, you're a longtime racer and have stayed with the sport. What are your thoughts if, in fact, it's just the 2 rounds at Calabogie, the 2 rounds at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park? Should a #1 plate be awarded in Superbike and championships declared in the other classes? Because when you look at the other sports, not just motorsport, but other major sports, they're all dealing with abbreviated schedules and different formats as to how they have some kind of a season.
You really put me on the spot here.
Yeah, that's what we meant to do.
That's what I figured when I signed up for this. You know, racing's racing. Often, if you don't do well in every event, you can't earn a #1. You have to win to earn the #1. And I think if it was 1 race, 10 races, or 4, that it should probably be given out. Jordan played the cards right and made some tough decisions, and it paid off. I've been in situations and I've seen tons of racers, you know, DNF and have 3 wins. I mean, and then the guy that got 5 seconds wins the championship. So we knew coming into this that you had to get a finish. Hi, honey. And you know, the best man won, and I think it should be given out, but that is ultimately Colin's call. That's just my personal opinion, and that's simple.
Sandy, you mentioned that your remaining track days are totally sold out. For the most part, COVID-19 has been, detrimental to so many businesses, but there are a few that have actually prospered during this time. And it sounds like whether it's Steve Waycamp's trail tours or track days or lapping sessions, it seems like every racetrack is as busy as it's ever been.
Absolutely. We had no idea come end of May. We thought we were shut down, still wearing our pajamas. And all of a sudden, we got the go-ahead from Jane. Mosport early on had canceled our first event early in June, and we had to cancel our Shannonville pre-national day. And we were just winding up to sit around for the summer. And then when we got to Calabogie, people were beating down our door to get in here and ride. And it's been sold out all season. We actually, for the first time in a decade, added 2 more events, which we were at. This 24th and 25th that we're at right now at Calabogie were not on the schedule a month ago. Sheena added these dates, and they are also sold out. As far as the track days goes, they were carrying us. The shops struggled with COVID process. The tires have struggled with just due to the lack of events, racing events. But our track days are really booming, so we're thankful for that.
We're going to come back before we let you go, Sandy. I want to check in with Stuart Nodell. And Stuart, I think we've got some more questions or comments.
Yeah, we do, Pat. I'll just pull some up here. And really, a few people have commented. Nathan Aslan's pointed out that 40 years ago, the race series was only, in fact, 2 races for the championship. So that's his thought and what he's seen. Others are just asking, they're really more thankful that Sandy and Sheena stepped up. The people at Pro 6 put on these events and made it happen, basically. So people are really thankful about that. So I think Sandy and Sheena deserve a lot of credit, and hopefully people continue to support them in whatever, track days or racing, wherever that they're able to do going forward.
Sandy, how soon do you start selling track days for 2021? Because I'm sure there are lots of people out there looking to get things booked before they're all sold out next year, because I just think what you've seen here in terms of the upsurge is going to continue well into 2021.
Yeah, first off, I want to thank the viewers for the kind words and the support. We really appreciated it. That really motivated us to do Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Calabogie, we were super stressed. And all the kind words and support from racers and crew around really pushed us through. So we really thank them for that. Sheena starts booking our dates come September, October, with a lot of schedule shifting. She'll sometimes have them ready by early December. And if you're one of the good guys, Pat, you'd be on the short list. And she sends an email out early on to about 80 of our best clients, and we'll get their pre-bookings in early at the largest discount. Helps us move some cash.
That's the front of the line program with Pro 6. I'm not on that list.
Well, I know somebody, so we'll let you know. So she'll get those dates out, and we started to get some money together for our deposits for the tracks. And then come January 1st, the schedule goes public, and then we start selling them at the shows and through our website.
Okay, Sandy, we want to thank you for jumping on board. Again, I speak for all of the motorcycle road racing fans out there. If you and Sheena and the rest of the crew there at Pro 6 had not stepped up, we wouldn't be having this conversation with Michael Leon and Jordan Szoke. about the CSBK Superbike Championship. I've worked with Colin Fraser over the years in many capacities. Actually, for about 6 months, was doing sales for Shannonville Motorsport Park when Jack Bockstrom owned it, and Colin and I shared an office down at Kingston Road and Main Street in Toronto. Of course, had the opportunity to work with him on the TV broadcast for many years. He has certainly dedicated his life to Canadian road racing. It's easy to criticize, but he has been in a very, very difficult situation. And it's great that he's had people like you, Sandy and Sheena, able to step up and help him do what he's done so far. Don't know, as you said, whether or not there's going to be any more racing. Colin, at the end of the day, I think has done his very best under some very trying circumstances. And we want to wish you all the best with the remaining Pro 6 track days. And thanks again for stepping up and being a hero to racers and race fans in this country.
Well, that's very kind of you, Pat. We never thought of ourselves as heroes. We also do it for our own satisfaction. We love doing it. Sheena's right here right now, sitting in on me. She's my left-hand man.
Is Sheena hiding there in the dark?
Come on over, Hunt.
Okay, Sheena, step on up. Thanks again for everything that you've done. And before you go away, Stuart, I think we've got some other questions or comments I'd like you to share with everyone.
Yeah, we've got a bunch here, Pat, I'll go through. First of all, I wanted to point out to Sandy, I've raced with Sandy for a long time, back in our 250 days, but he actually, I didn't realize he rode the first round at Calabogie, and he turned some competitive lap time, so he's still fast. But we've got a bunch of people here asking, Pat, they want to know if Sandy's going to run a regional series at Calabogie in 2021, if that's on the table at all.
Is that a hot rumor, Sandy? As you're going to go from tire distributor and Pro 6 cycle shop and track days to race series organizer?
Oh, that's another good question. We've muttered it around the back shop and have thought about it, and we are thinking about it. We have the venue here. We love this facility. We draw from a very large rider base out of Quebec. As you noticed at our first round, I think 80% of the entrants at the Calabogie National were from Quebec. So we have that going for us here, and noted as being one of the best tracks in the country, and having our shop here and our home base. We have given it some thoughts. Sheena's working some numbers and working with the track manager. We'll see how it goes. It's going to have to be, a good move for Colin and for us if we were going to do it, because right now we have our hands full with the amount of track days we do a year, our shop in Toronto, and the tire distribution. It's a concept right now, but we'll see.
To be continued. Stuart, anything else there before we go back to Michael and Jordan for the final 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, just I guess the only other question was Franz Walker wanted Sandy to share some of his AMA 250 experiences, but we might have to do another show just on Sandy. He's got fans with us tonight.
Well, I think a 250 Grand Prix show is the works. Not only here in Canada, that was sort of the big support race before Pro Sport by 250 Grand Prix, and I think the last guy to win Superbike, Sport Bike, and 250 Grand Prix was Steve Crevier in '89. So Sandy, once again, we're going to let you go. I know it's probably been a long day there at Calabogie, and you and Sheena and the family want to get off and have a late dinner.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. It was great to visit with you guys. and we'll see you next time.
Okay, all the best. Stuart, any further questions or comments before we wrap it up here with Jordan and Michael?
I think you can go ahead and speak to the guys, Pat. It's, again, just more of the same. Everyone's happy to see Sandy in Pro 6, and they were able to put on a season.
Yeah, Michael Leon, you've had an amazing last few years in Superbike, finishing as high as fourth, a couple of sixth, a fifth. Last year, eighth, I think, in the Superbike Championship. How did you get started? You mentioned Shannonville. Is that where you began racing as an amateur?
I started at Sandy Noce, actually. Like the first place I rode was at Loudon. I went down and did the Penguin Racing School down there, and then came back and started riding my street bike at Sandy Noce. And that was a long time ago, 20 plus years ago.
How sad were you to see the closure of that racetrack at the end of the season last year? And as Sandy said, now Calabogie is probably the closest racetrack for many of the road racers to.
Yeah, Sandy Noce closing was heartbreaking. I mean, it wasn't a tremendous facility. It was, the lap times were in the later years very short. I think we were 45 seconds. It was like Groundhog Day going around there. Same corner every 45 seconds. But for me, I always had a warm place in my heart. I learned, the hard breaks and the fun of road racing there, and it was just terrible to see it close. And we have ICAR, which is not too far from Montreal, but that's not really much of a track. It's not it's not very safe. There's lots of guardrail. Yeah, so Calabogie is the closest real track to me.
Michael, what's your plans for the rest of the season? Obviously, if there's another CSBK round somewhere here in Ontario, I'm sure you'll be there. But is that it for you?
Yeah. So if there's another round, obviously I'll be out there. I want to keep supporting the series. And I have a little repair to do on the bike. Fortunately, it wasn't too damaged. But other than that, maybe some coaching. I do coaching with Pro 6 from time to time, maybe a couple track days with them. But, if there's no racing, that's okay with me. I need some time to rest and prepare for next season. Even though this season was so short, it was a tough one with COVID and, in my personal life, work, we were kind of shut down for a while, and it's been a difficult season for everybody in every industry. So
I want to give you an opportunity to give a shout out to your longtime sponsor, Royal Distributing, who in spite of the fact there was a 6-round series or whatever, they still stepped up and supported you and allowed you to go to Calabogie and go to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Yeah, they've been phenomenal over the years. I think I've been representing them now for 12 seasons. And we just got the news today that the series is going to be on TSN, which is really good news for me. It's important for Royal to have, some exposure for their sponsorship. And when the series when the racing was announced and we knew there was going to be no spectators, I was very apprehensive and, concerned when I reached out to them to ask them, are you still in? Are we still going racing? And they bounced back right away within a few hours. Sure, let's do it. And we tried to do Facebook Live from the track, which adds a little bit of a stressful, element, on top of riding. I had to worry about doing a Facebook Live, but it worked out pretty good. So it gave them something to work with. And, my team was great. We've changed things up a little bit this year. Kyle, who's been my crew chief for 5 years, has taken on some more responsibilities, and he's running the data on the team now. And we have Jarrett, my good friend, also coming helping out. So I was able to do the Facebook Live thing without even having to worry so much about the bike. They just took care of everything. So, but, yeah, Royal Distributing has been key for me. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to be racing as well.
Yeah, I know I stopped by your pit on the Friday of the Riders' Choice Track Day, and those guys are working hard on the data acquisition stuff, trying to get you a really quick bike for the weekend. And obviously they did, qualifying second right behind Jordan. Jordan, Michael talking about his longtime sponsor. I think every racer has been impacted this year with sponsorship. You've been able to find some new sponsorship, but certainly with the loss of Mopar Express Lane and some others, made it very challenging for you to do the 4 Superbike races you've done so far. What does the rest of the season look like for you, assuming there isn't going to be another round?
Yeah, for us, it's, Michael has his job, Jeff Williams has his job. For me, my job is being in the motorcycle industry and managing shows. So there's no fairs, there's no Canada Day festivals. Like all of our shows have been completely canceled. The only 2 shows or 3 shows I did in the year were Quebec and Montreal Motorcycle Show, and then I did an online Canada Day show for Wilmot they had a little online Canada Day show, so it was cut down. So for me, we're pretty much bankrupt over here, and obviously Amy, the film industry, starting to pick back up, so she hasn't been working either. So hopefully soon she can start doing some work on her side. So for us, it's just more of trying to sell off more of our assets and things to stay afloat at the moment. And, like Michael said, it's great that the TSN thing's coming, because then all of our sponsors that are involved are going to get the credit they deserve. And it'll also help us build on next year. I'm sure a lot of our shows will be coming back, and, the country will be eager when it's time to have more of the, whether it's our fall fairs we do, all that's funded through the local communities and the government funding. So I'm sure that'll be a big push for the government down the road to get those things back on track. And then, like Mopar was a big hit for us. Unfortunately, that affected the whole series, not just our team. And I know they're brokenhearted over there. John, Jim, and John, they're all very brokenhearted. They didn't want to see that happen. It was above them. So, I know that if they have their choice, they'll be back involved in some way. They're so passionate over there. We lost Joe Rocket was one of our bigger funding sponsors, but they're still eager to support us with things we need. They're having a tough year as well. So, it affected all of our sponsors, but I can't thank the ones that have really stuck in there, especially Kawasaki and Blackfoot. And we lost Motivan because they went belly up before all this. And then, but I picked up a new sponsor with Canada General Warranty. Tim, I take care in our shop. We're not only a race shop, we build performance bikes for people, kind of like Post 6 does. And, I've been taking care of a few of the track day guys' bikes. Tim's dropping his bike off this week for me to get ready for Tremblant track days coming up, and I think one more Sandy's days. So I'm doing a bit of that work, keeping those bikes running. But the Canada General Warranty, they're new on the scene for offering extended warranties to all motorcycles throughout the industry. So that's a really exciting product for the customers now. You see it a little bit in the motorsports, but not a lot. You see it obviously in the automotive world. So it's nice to see some of those brands and some of those options coming to our motorsports world. And like I said, I'm just trying to ride my bicycle every day, trying to keep my head above water. I'll be at the SOAR race this weekend cheering Amy on. She's going to go and ride the endurance race, I guess, on one of the Walker 400s with them. So go down there and hang out, maybe hit the beach one of the days.
Okay, Jordan, sounds like a good weekend. Stuart, any final comments or questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones, Pat. Really, one of the questions asked was why isn't Colin on the show with us at all? And being as he's the promoter, but we did have Colin on actually our very first episode, but we had internet issues. He didn't have a strong enough signal. We've obviously extended invitations to him, and we will continue to. I'm sure he's got a lot on his plate. And then other than that, we have Pete asking if there's a GoFundMe page or any kind of support program for Jeff Williams, the injured rider. So I'm not aware of anything. I haven't seen or heard about that. But if someone knows, put it in the Q&A. We'd love to get that word out there. And then one other person asked if with racing in jeopardy at Shannonville, or so they seem to think, would the riders be willing to go to their tracks like Gimli and Manitoba? But I don't know, again, with travel this year, it's logistically, I'm sure it's just too difficult for the guys to travel too far.
Yeah, well, as we said, Shannonville with a whole new group running it there. I think there's been some challenges through the first couple of rounds. They do have their final round coming up September 19th and 20th. And I'm sure any good businessman will make the necessary changes that they need to make to grow that sport. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I think, as you've heard from Michael Leon, certainly the elimination of prize money for the pro riders, that doesn't seem to be a good move. So we'll leave it at that. I want to thank Sandy Noce for coming on board. Michael Leon, great to see you. Jordan Szoke as well. We wish you all the best. And Stuart Nodell, looking forward to this weekend. Not only does the SOAR series run at Grand Bend, but our talented young Canadian rider, Alex Dumas, is going to be at the Moto America race at the Ridge. I think he did a track day there earlier, so he should be familiar, looking to see if he can close that gap. I think he's currently third in the Stock 1000 class in Moto America. So we'll bid you adieu. Thanks to everyone for tuning in tonight. And again, our thanks to Michael Leon, Jordan Szoke, and to you, Stuart Nodell. We'll see you back here next Monday night on the 31st of August show of Track Announcers Notebook. Stay safe and all the best.